Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky to episode of Worlds to Conquer, and I would love today to dive into some of the questions that I got from listeners just like you that said, Jamie, I've been listening a lot about your team development conversations and how you employ only rock stars at Shalansky & Associates, our RRA up in Anchorage, Alaska, but I just don't have that same type of staff. I don't have that same type of personnel. How do you find these people, and how do you take existing team members and motivate them towards achieving greatness and towards achieving those firm goals on a regular basis? So let's dive into the first topic. How do we find personnel? One of the things that I love to do is I love to write ads that speak towards people's values. Technical skills can be taught, but you really have to have values that would inhabit the organization at large. And so I like to look for individuals that have been working in the healthcare sector, more so than the financial planning sector, if I'm hiring for support personnel and not financial advisors. So I will use Indeed. I don't have a lot of success with ZipRecruiter, although I really like their platform. And I have zero success with Facebook. I don't like advertising on Facebook because it sends it out to clients and acquaintances faster than it sends it out to anyone else. And so oftentimes when I have historically had any advertisements on Facebook, I will have clients screenshot it, send it over to me and say, oh, saw your ad, and I don't like that. Everyone knows everyone else is hiring, but that's not how I like to communicate with clients. So I choose not to use Facebook just because of how they have things set up. I have had success with Indeed, and Indeed is tricky though. Like many platforms, you're going to pay per resume, but it is the number one job site in America. People do use and resource that a lot. So whichever resource that you use, I will go through and I will look for people that have had any type of healthcare background or experience, particularly if they are a surgery scheduler. If they're a surgery scheduler, that would be amazing because they're used to having to run multiple calendars. They're used to having to make adjustments and keep things running efficiently. The reason I also like healthcare as a background for to hire someone is that they're already familiar with confidentiality. And so we talk a lot about, in fact, at Shalansky & Associates, sometimes when it comes to understanding client confidentiality, I'll have my team take a continuing education course that's offered to healthcare professionals instead of those that are in the financial planning space. Why? There's a ton more money in the healthcare space, and their continuing education is completely head and shoulders above what we offer in the financial services space. So sometimes when we're having those conversations about confidentiality, personal, private information, we'll take a healthcare class on HIPAA and say, okay, kind of translates. We're just going to have to use our mental brain to decipher the two, but let's understand the difference in those. So I like anyone that has had that background experience. Post-COVID, I really like hiring people out of healthcare as well because they're burnt out. They're done. They're really exhausted with all of the reform, the changes, the shortages, etc. And so coming into finance is actually a little bit slower for them. And they really like the reprieve on that. They're also used to working really long and hard hours. I find people that work in the healthcare background have a compassion and they want to give, they want to help, they want to be a part of solutions. So I find that is generally fitting to what we like to have here. I don't really hire people with a ton of financial background experience because I find that I have to do more educating them on how we do things and undoing habits, traits, or trends they have from other people. When I do hire someone, I don't like to hear, well, that's not how I've done it. That's not how I always did it. That's not how we did it. I don't care how it was done before. Instead, I like to do it our way. One of the things that I tell all new hires is I hand them a notebook and I say, I am welcome to all of your fantastic, wonderful ideas about how we should change things. Write them all down at your 6-month review. We will go over and you can tell me which ones stuck and which ones are dismissed. Because the first 6 months when you're working in financial planning, like our practice, you're not going to know your head from your feet. You're just not. And so you might have valuable input, but there's a reason we do a lot of things. And I don't need need your confidence to trump my expertise in this area. And so I want to hear those ideas. I'm super collaborative as a leader, but not when you're just brand new. You've got to learn things about why we do things a certain way before you jump into telling me how they should be done. So I will look for people with those things. I also look for longevity. How long have you been able to hold a job? If you've been bouncing around every single year, maybe that suits your lifestyle. That doesn't work for me. I want somebody that's been at a place 3 to 5 years, because oftentimes when we do find the right person, we know we're going to have them for the rest of their life, because we are really building leaders. We are building people with career paths, and they have movement and direction forward. All right. Now, once we've got the team onboarded, the next big question, the next big hurdle that I get from people is to say, okay, listen, that's how you hire someone, but I've got an existing team. I've got an existing team and I just can't get their heads wrapped around whatever, or I can't get them to move outside the box, or I can't get them to see why we want to hit these objectives. So I would say that problem number one, they don't understand the goal. You have not articulated the goal in a way that has a meaningful impact to them. And so oftentimes as financial advisors, we are goal seekers. And so we will constantly seek new goals and new avenues and new things to do. And every single year we want to keep moving our practice forward so that we can impact many lives, our economics improve, and we can bring on new team members or help the lives of new team members. But to new team members, when they see that we need to go get more clients or more AUM, all they hear is the word more, and they start to question, when will it be enough, or when will we be satisfied? Why do we need more? Why can't we just service the ones that we have now? And so that kind of stagnation is really problematic for financial advisors, because we understand from the business planning perspective why we've got to have more. We have to have more because you want a continued paycheck. That's why we need more. And so when we talk to team members, they're not getting that business planning side. Instead, what they're seeing is, especially because we practice surge, they're like, hey, we have so many clients. Why are we even trying to find more clients? Why are we even trying to prospect? Why are we trying to have all these people contact our firm? And so we have to have really great conversations with our team about our why, to Simon Sinek it. And every single year we do this at our annual retreat, we're reiterating it. When we do our monthly training with our team, we're reiterating this goal so that everyone understands that this is about massive impact to as many heartbeats as possible. So we have to keep growing so we can impact as many heartbeats as possible. And the way that we celebrate this is we use Google in our office as our workspace. And so we have spaces and chat set up. We have a space set up for successes. And so anytime a financial advisor has a win with a client gives a compliment or feedback, or we've made a powerful change, we celebrate it with the team and we reinforce why we're doing this. So, if we have a client break down the office and say, listen, I never thought I'd have over $1 million. I don't come from anything. I don't have any college education. I don't have any of this. My family was often poor, whatever that is. We will tell the team and we'll say, guys, this is how we create multi-generational change. This is the impact that we are. And so we're always coming back to that why we are doing what we're doing and why we are growing. And so this last year, we set a goal of reaching 1 million federal employees. At Shalansky & Associates, we have a subsidiary called Plan Your Federal Retirement, and our marketing is niche based around federal employees. And so we said, you know what? There are 4 million federal employees in the United States of America. 2 million of them work for federal agencies. What if we could reach half of them? What if we could spread our wings so far, a little RIA up in Anchorage, Alaska, and we impact 1 million federal employees and give them information that they need about their benefits? And so we got the team on board and we said, listen, this is a big haul for us to do this. We can reach a few 100,000, Mike and I by ourselves. But in order for us to make 1 million, this is what we have to do. This is who has to be involved, and we all got to commit to it. And we also have to know the kind of change and impact we're going to make in people's lives. So that way we are all dedicated to that mission. And as we sat down with all the financial advisors in our office, they were like, yeah, let's do this, and then we created a marketing plan, a schedule, and a content. And so now they see every piece of content. And what Tony Robbins says this, right? That people are celebrated in public for what they spent hours practicing in private. And our young financial advisors are beginning to learn that. So as we onboard new financial advisors, because we are actively hiring at Shalansky Shalansky and Associates for the right type of financial advisor, they get to see that in order to make content, it's not one take. It's multiple takes, and it's doing it again and again and again and again until you get it right, until you are able to impactfully change somebody's life. And that takes a lot of hours. And so for our financial advisors, they might do a publication 4 different times, and one of it gets aired, maybe, because it really goes through the gauntlet and gets critiqued by their peers and then our marketing team about before it ever gets published, because that's how important making an impact in other people's lives is to us as a firm. So once our team is on board and they 100% understand our why and they're passionate about it and they're making strides and they're moving forward, it cannot stop there. So a lot of the redundancy that we do at our firm is intentional. It's intentional because by the time that you are exhausted saying something, it is the first time somebody finally heard you. And I often think about this because anyone out there that's listening that's a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, could you clean your room? Hey, could you put your clothes away? Hey, could you clean your room? And you're saying it over and over and over again. And then no kid is listening until what? Until you lose your and then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, why didn't you just tell me? And you're like, oh my God. Did I go down the rabbit hole? I've said it 50,000 times. You're only just now listening to me. So by the time that you're exhausted saying something, somebody has finally heard it. So we can't just start with a why or have a solid mission statement pasted to our door and then leave it and then drop the conversation. We have to keep resonating. We have to keep going back to that. All right. So once we have that in place, one of the arguments in which teams fail is they will often say we have a lack of resources. So if I look at any organization and say, okay, why aren't you achieving your goals? Number one, they didn't understand what the goal and objective was and how they played a part and it impacted them. Okay. They played a part and there was a direct impact for them in playing that part. All right. Then the second one is, well, lack of resources. So when it comes to lack of resources, there's kind of 3 areas that when people talk about resources, they're referring to. It's either money, it's personnel, or it's technology access, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. So if it's a lack of resources on the money and technology, I'm going to give you a couple of ways that we solve this at Shalansky and Associates. One of the things that I do is all of our employees in their offer letter, they get a technology allowance. So when you come to work for us, whether you're full-time in Anchorage, Alaska, or you're hybrid and you live somewhere else and you come back for Surge up in Anchorage, Alaska, you'll get issued some basic technology. The basic technology is like a computer and a mouse, etc. But then you'll get a technology allowance. And that technology allowance is structured in a way that you are empowered to buy things that will help you be better at your job. And so this could be a second monitor. This could be a standing desk. This could be a 4K camera display on your for all your Zoom meetings and such. So whatever that is, that's going to make you more proficient. And I give a list of approved devices. If you have hybrid workers, this is critical to put in place because it spells out that the technology purchased by the firm is the firm's. We keep serial records and pictures of all the devices. And then if we part ways for whatever reason, especially if you're hiring people virtual that don't live in the same state as you, then you need to send everything back in order to have your final pay. Otherwise, these items are garnished from your compensation. Luckily, that does not happen to us. We haven't had to exercise that, but it is out there. It's spelled out so we know what's what and who's whose. And we keep track of all of that. And the reason that I did this technology allowance is because I found oftentimes that employees were either asking for everything or asking for nothing. So you'd have an employee that wanted absolutely everything just because it was new, it was trendy, it was gadget, it was whatever, and they thought it was going to help them. And then that became exhaustive to have to either say yes or no to. And then the second one is somebody would ask for nothing. So they would be squinting at a monitor and going back and forth between window panes instead of just saying, hey, could I have $100 to buy a second monitor? And so instead, what we said was, here's this technology allowance that you get every single year. Here's how you're going to keep track of the devices. Here's what's already approved. You don't even have to ask permission for. Anything outside of this list, you got to get approved by your lead. And then what is going to make you most successful? And what I really loved about this is that our team, particularly the financial advisors, they came and said, hey, listen, with this allowance, what is most important for me to have? What should I is a no-brainer. I need to have this, get it set up. And so we gave them like our top technology things that we have in place. One of the things that I love, especially for hybrid, if you travel a lot and you got a laptop, is the laptop second monitor. This thing is slick, right? It's not a huge, big monitor. It's just I don't even know the dimensions, 11 by 14 or whatever second screen that you can use when you're traveling to hotels and things like that, and you get yourself set up. It's fantastic. So talking to the team and giving that type of allowance, giving that type of permission. Because remember, what do managers say why teams fail? Because they don't have budget, they don't have access to technology. Okay, we just solved that, right? And now on the budget side, oftentimes if I have somebody say, hey, listen, I want to start this new marketing idea, or this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I say, great, every dollar I spend, I need a 5X it. I need to have a 5 times return. So if you're going to ask me to spend $300 a month, how are we going to 5X that? And then I need them to problem solve it and put out a requisition for them. And then they can show me their strategy and what they're thinking and why this would be helpful or why this would be useful. We did this for Canva when it first came out, Canva Pro. And my team was like, hey, listen, I really want to buy this. And I said, great, tell me how we're going to 5X it. And they did. They're like, boom, we're going to use it this way, and this way. Loved it. Instant purchase, done. Let's not even have the conversation. Now, the reason that they have to problem solve how we're going to 5X it is because not everyone you add to your organization is going to think like a business owner. They're just not. They're not skilled. They're not equipped. That's not what their mindset is. They're going to think like an employee, not an employer. And so I need to empower my team to look at expenses and say, hey, listen, before we just randomly spend money, how are we going to make that money back? How is this going to benefit us? And it needs to either produce more revenue or give us more time. And so show me how this is going to do that. This also helps with subscription. When you just start randomly subscribing to a whole bunch of different services because, oh, it's only $24. Oh, it's only $14, whatever these numbers are. And then all of a sudden you've got all these subscriptions for crap you don't even look at hardly. So instead, I make my team responsible for it. And then I revisit it every few months. So every quarterly basis, when I'm doing my financial review of the RIA, I will look back at all our subscriptions and I'll be like, okay, are we using this? Are we using this? Are we using this? And get those access logs and make sure that we're not just allowing those things to float on our books and erode our profitability just because we got too lazy to really look at things in depth. So when it comes to access to budget and technology, that's a great way to do it. All right. The thing that people often say also is lack of personnel. So they don't have enough people. And one of the things that financial advisors are so terrible about, we're so awful at this, is that if we have a problem or if we want to achieve a goal outside of where we are, the very first thing that we know how to do is throw more human capital at it. We would rather throw human capital than we would anything else. I mean, anything else. And so what we say is we don't have enough personnel. I need to hire someone. I need to hire someone. I need to hire someone. Now, if you are a solo practitioner listening to this and you don't know if you need to hire someone, let me answer that question. The answer is yes, you need to hire someone because you need to be focused on providing financial advice and expediting your time by hiring an assistant or somebody else to do all of that. And the virtual assistant can be full-time, they can be part-time, they can be in person. It doesn't matter, but you need somebody to be taking care of those tasks so you can concentrate on the bigger tasks. But if you're already established and you already have personnel in your office, you have a multi-advisor office maybe, and your first reaction is, we need to hire more people, you need to really put this through the human filter. And that says, okay, are my people at capacity? Are the people that are already on my payroll at capacity? And your immediate answer is always yes. Yes, they can't possibly take on more. But what if I told you that most employees work 4 to 5 hours a day consistently? 4 to 5 hours a day. Now, that doesn't mean their butts aren't in the seat 8 to 10. That means that they're jamming out 4 to 5 hours worth of work every single day. Would that change your mind? Do you want to see if this is true or not? Tell your team that you are implementing Flex Fridays. And if everything is done by Thursday night, then nobody has to come to work on Fridays and they get a 3-day weekend. Watch the productivity in your office radically and dramatically increase. You will just be in awe of how fast people get work done when they are given a deadline, and then also when they are given the freedom to be able to go and do something else with that time. The Parkinson's law, work takes up the amount of time that you allow for work to take. And so if you tell them, if you get everything done by Thursday, wrap it up and get out of here and have a 3-day weekend, guess what your team is going to do? They're going to go have a 3-day weekend. And God love them. Go hike, go kayak, go golf, go do whatever you're going to do on your 3-day weekend. I would love for my team to have that kind of time. Get your done. Prioritize the work that needs to get done. Make sure you're using time blocking strategies and get that work done. So before you throw human capital, you need to have an internal exercise and see if time on more people is really your problem, or are you being inefficient? A great exercise that you could also do in relation to this is to go through the day that your team members have, not in a micromanaging way, but just sit down with them and say, hey, walk me through your day. I did this at the end of last year. That sweet spot, just as the new year begins, everything's still kind of quiet. And I sat down with my team as we were talking about time blocking. And I said, great, walk me through your day. And the inefficiencies that just blatantly stood out to me were just awe-dropping. And these are people that had been with me for 10 years. When I said, hey, walk me through your day, all of the sudden I saw all of the distractions, all the interruptions, all the prioritizations, and also all the inefficiencies, ways that they were wasting time to get to results instead of problem solving in a different way, because they were in it, not because they're lazy, not because they didn't want to get done quicker or be more efficient. They just didn't know how. And so they had to have somebody else on the outside looking in. And that's true of all of us. In fact, I tell everyone I meet, I am no better editor than the moment I click send. When I click send, I see all of my grammar mistakes blatantly out in front of me. And that is true of us when we're inside of our day. That's one of the beautiful things about the masterminds that we do at the Perfect RIA, is that we get to walk through and call each other out and say, hold on, you're doing this? That's way inefficient. Do this instead. Because you're around people that want your best, and you're around people that are in the trenches with you. Real life experts, not people calling it from the cheap seats, but people that are doing the work that you are doing also. So when I ask my managers and they're arguing for the limitations of my team members, I really want to sit back and say, what is the real problem? Is this a budget problem? Okay, if it's a budget problem, let's work through it. What money do you need? Why do you need it? And how do we go earn that money back? All right, is this a human capital problem? Do I really have a human capital problem? Or do I think my existing team members can't get me to where I'm going? Now, if your existing team members cannot get you to the next level of where you want to go, that's a different conversation. That's a conversation that you need to really sit down and evaluate your practice and be thankful for the people that got you there, but recognize if they're not going to get you where you need to be next. And then you need to show them the decency of letting them go. Because if they do not serve where you are headed, you cannot keep them as an anchor to your organization, because it will make them feel incredibly inadequate. And that is such a disrespectful service to provide to somebody that has helped you get to where you are today. I will not disrespect somebody that has got my organization where they are today by continuing to employ them out of pity or sympathy. It does them no service, and it really demoralizes another human being, and I will not do that to them. I only want people that are going to serve where we are headed and be at their absolute best. And if they gave me their best and got me here, fantastic, because now if they give that to somebody else, my God, the life changes that they're going to make for someone else. So really sit down and evaluate who's on your team and whether or not they serve where you are headed. And if they are not, then you're going to have the courage and the human decency to look at them and tell them that you are so grateful for their service, but that you would respect them enough not to continue to employ them only out of pity. The next thing that I ask my leads when it's talking about achieving our goals and where we are at is, tell me why we can't get to this next level. And they might say, we have some competing priorities. And that is a great indication that I need to sit down, because one of the things, especially as visionaries, especially as thought leaders and people that are provoked in this space, is that we look at things and we say, oh, we want to do this. Oh, we want to do that. Oh, we want to do this. And so we'll set out quarter goals and we'll say, okay, the next 90 days, everyone else go do this. And then about 45 days into those goals, we will forget that we set 90-day goals and we'll think they're 9-minute goals and wonder why they're not achieved. And so we oftentimes tell our employees what their priorities are, but then we forget what those priorities are. And so I need to lean on my leads to say, okay, tell me what the competing priorities are so we can prioritize them. One of the things that I give all of my team members is the tool set to say to us, I need your help prioritizing things. And that tells us they've got multiple things competing for a very short amount of time, and they no longer feel comfortable making the decision about what needs to get done. And I will have team members regularly use this, especially if we're going to ramp up something huge and we're running close to that deadline, or we're getting ready to go into a massive project, because during the summertime in between surges, we do a lot of big projects in our office. And my team members will come to me and say, hey, listen, I just need some help prioritizing what needs to get done because I have some competing priorities. And then we said, great, let's sit down and go through them. And it's very easy for a lead or a leader to sit down and go over somebody's tasks and assignments and say, nope, that can wait. Nope, this has to get done, etc. And so I like to set deadlines around money and time. So if something has to get done because, it's the end of the year, you got to have it done by the 20th, otherwise it won't happen, then that's an important deadline. If something involves money, then that's an important deadline. But the rest of them can kind of be fluid. They can fluctuate. And that becomes to me to say, all right, you know what? We've got these big goals ahead of us. Are we going to change directions from what we set these rocks as? Or are we going to reprioritize those competing priorities? So making sure your team members have the skill set and vocabulary to come to you when those things happen. Because I get really frustrated when leads argue for team member limitations. Really frustrates me. They can't do it. They can't do it. They're at their bandwidth. They're at their maximum. They can't do it. They have no time. All of these kind of things. And I'm like, okay, hold on, stop. Because if I sat down, just like I did with my own executive assistant, and said, walk me through your day, I found all of the inefficiencies. And so oftentimes when somebody says, I don't have enough time, what is the reality? You probably have competing priorities and you don't know which way to focus on or how to focus best on those. And so then you have to sit down and you have to say, these are the things that are paramount. These are the things that have to get done. These are the things that move the needle. And these are the things that need to wait. Giving your team members the vocabulary to come to you when they feel they have a problem or they're running out of time or they have a conflict in priorities is powerful as a leader, because now you're engaged to go, oh, I gave you that vocabulary. You're coming to me when I told you to. Now I've got to stop what I'm doing. I need to focus on what you're saying so that we can both achieve where we want to achieve. The next area that I look at when it comes to team members not being able to achieve goals that we've set out as a firm is their skill set. And so I look at where they're at, their efficiencies, what they're super proficient at, what they're completely inefficient at. And I like to take a Brian Tracy approach. And so the Brian Tracy approach means, if the kid comes home and he's got 6 A's and 1 C, why are we focusing on the C? The kid knocked out of the park in 6 different areas. Why does all of our energy and focus go on the one single area that you're not very good at? And so looking at who's best skilled and qualified to do things is paramount to being able to hit your goals and your objectives for the year. And if somebody doesn't possess a technical skill, that can be easily trained. But if they don't have a certain skill set that they absolutely need for that job, you have to evaluate, is it worth the time and energy to put in the money and the education to give to that person so that they can do this? And do they have the natural aptitude to take it on? One of the ways I look at this is a lot of technical people don't have very good EQ, emotional intelligence. And a lot of emotionally intelligent people don't have great technical skills. So am I trying to put a square peg in a round hole? Or am I saying, you know what, let's divide these tasks out wow, this is super technical, therefore I need you. And this is very, emotionally sensitive, and I need you on this. And so looking at your skill resources, looking at your employees and saying, where are they rock stars at? And what are the areas that they just don't succeed at? And then you could even do a filter through this, right? So take a sheet of paper, fold it in half, then fold it in half again, and have them write down things that they do and they love, they do and they like, they do and they hate, right? And things that they would get rid of in an absolute heartbeat if they could. And this is a great way to get responses back from your team about areas that they feel that they're adding value and areas that they just really come at begrudgingly because they know they're not naturally good at it. And you can assess, is this a lack of education? Ignorance can be educated. And most of the time, your team members will know where they're rock stars and they'll know where they're dropping the ball. Sometimes people think they're rock stars in areas that they're not, but most of the time they know where they're crushing it and they know where they're just dropping the ball. If you've hired them, you've given them a job, you're showing them the dignity and respect of earning that position, then listen to their feedback and get it from them and make sure that you're getting the absolute best out of every single individual. So when it comes to, Jamie, how do you find rock stars? You don't find rock stars. There are no rock star shops that you're going to go open the door and they're going to be there and blow your socks off. Most of the time, look for good people. Look for people who share your values. And the technical stuff, they can learn that. They don't have to have industry experience, but they do have to be a good person. And they have to be highly motivated and not just the first words on their resume, but somebody that actually wants to make a change in the world, somebody that wants to impact heartbeats, somebody that wants to deliver massive value and go above and beyond and develop and nurture a career that they get to change lives. I mean, it's so powerful. And when you're talking to another human being that gets that, you're going to get the absolute best out of them. So find people who share those values and then go nurture and develop their career and give them an opportunity in a career sector that they might have never entertained before. Everything we do at The Perfect RIA is about actionable advice you can take right now, wherever you're at in your practice, and make a radical change. So right now, evaluate your team. If you're a solo practitioner, you need to email us right now today at lifestyle@theperfectria.com and make sure that we're aligning you with somebody that can help in a virtual or part-time capacity in order to propel you towards your goals. If you have a multi-advisor office and you already have existing team members, it's a great time to do a complete evaluation and make sure you have the right people in the right seats to achieve those objectives. All right, third, what are your objectives? Are your team members totally committed to them because they understand what the goals are and what you're trying to achieve and how they play a role in that goal? If they are not attached to that goal, they will not help you achieve it. TPR Nation, this has been an episode of Worlds to Conquer. I'm Jamie Shalansky. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife.